Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop!
Mama? Mama? Papa? Is everything all right in there?
So sorry, darling. Father and I are just playing a stupid game. You know my daughter Mary, of course?
Of course,
and
Lady Mary.
Edith, but I don't believe you've met my youngest, Sybil.
Ah, Lady Sybil.
How do you do?
Robert's very protective of his daughters, like any father would be.
He's an opportunity. Mary needs a position, and preferably a powerful one. He can provide it.
You don't think she'd be happier with a more traditional setup?
Will she have the option?
And all the time you've been driving me about, bowing and scraping and seducing my daughter behind my back.
I don't bow and scrape, and I've not seduced anyone. Give your daughter some credit for knowing her own mind.
How dare you speak to me in that tone?
Well, if you'll excuse me, I must go and sort out the wine for tonight.
He doesn't approve of me.
He doesn't know you.
Nor is he likely to.
I think maybe not that no man's good enough, but he wants the right one to be chosen. So, for instance, he has a sort of man-to-man with Sir Anthony Strallan, you know, who's considerably older than Edith and probably a bit of a dull bloke. And is this really the right bloke for Edith?
If you want me to stay away from her, of course I will.
I know it sounds harsh.
Please, Robert, I understand completely. Lady Edith is your daughter, and you don't want her involved with some cripple who's far too old.
Now you're the one who's harsh.
It's not because he dislikes Strallan or thinks he's, you know, the wrong class or anything like that. It's more to do with, will his daughter feel comfortable?
Please, ask him back. He writes he's not coming to Mamma's dinner, but please make him.
Oh, all right, then.
And with Mary, well, Mary's always been, you know, the tricky one because she's so headstrong.
You could stay here if you married Matthew.
You know my character, Father. I'd never marry any man that I was told to.
You know, his advice is not about snobbery. You know, he just knows that Sir Richard, the newspaper guy, is simply not the right man for her.
He tells me he proposed when he was staying here. Well, have you decided?
I think I should take him.
Do you really, my darling? I wish I could believe in your motives.
Why? What were your motives when you married Mamma?
Your mother has made me very happy.
He's not a snob. He's not into making the right sort of marriage, as Violet's generation would have insisted upon.
Doesn't it occur to you that I might believe the best guarantee of Sybil's happiness lies with me?
Well, if you're not prepared to listen to reason...
I'm not prepared to listen to insults.
Then I will bid you a good day.
He doesn't dislike Tom, apart from his politics, but is Sybil actually going to be happy with this guy, you know, potentially living above a garage in Dublin for, you know, for the rest of her life?
You'll have a very different life from the one you might have lived, but if you're sure it's what you want...
I am.
Then you may take my blessing with you, whatever that means.
Papa, it means more than anything, more than anything.
If you mistreat her, I will personally have you torn to pieces by wild dogs.
I'd expect no less.
He does admire Tom's principles, and the bottom line is he looks after his daughter until she dies.
This is eclampsia.
Sybil.
But it cannot be. Sir Philip, you were so sure.
She can't hear me.
This is unbelievable.
The death of Sybil itself was very powerful, and that brilliant trick of you think she's going to die in childbirth, and she actually has the baby and it's all fine, and then bam, the eclampsia.
But this can't be. She's 24 years old. This cannot be.
Despite losing Sybil, Lord Grantham enjoys a happy ending with his other two daughters.
There they go, a new couple in a new world. It seems all our ships are coming into port. Why does she call me Donk?
It's that game you played, pinning the tail on the donkey.
Can't I be Grandpapa or something a little more dignified?
I'm afraid it's Donk for the moment.
I don't want George to catch it.
Here they are.
Bye-bye, darlings.
Goodbye, Donk.
There is a nice moment when you see Robert on the floor of the library playing snakes and ladders with Sybil, And he says to Cora,
"What would my father say?"
That you were building a very solid friendship with your granddaughter?
No, darling, you've landed on a snake, so you have to go back to there.
His father would no more play snakes and ladders than fly to the moon. So I think even in a generation, Robert has seen the house change. George and the little ones are brought down to be presented, but you get the sense that there's much more parental contact.
What's this?
Oh, that's the Sphinx, darling, in Egypt.
What?
The Sphinx. A creature of secrets that she never reveals.
Rather like Granny Violet.
Certainly, obviously, Edith's a different case because she's, desperate to have contact with Marigold.
Yeah, fun. Fun, darling.
You might expect Robert to have reacted very differently to the news about Edith's baby. And actually, his generosity of spirit as a father and as a human wins through. And you like him for that, I think.
I can't give her up.
Of course not.
Do you forgive me, Papa?
Oh, my darling. I'm sure I need your forgiveness quite as much as you need mine.
This is an era before the welfare state. This is an era before the NHS or healthcare and that sort of thing. So it's up to the boss of the big house to make sure that the cogs are turning and that everyone's in good health.
On Dr. Clarkson's recommendation, I'm sending you up to London to see an eye specialist at Moorfields. Anna will go with you, and you'll stay with my sister Rosamond in her new house in Belgrave Square.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to sit in your presence, my lord.
Of course. In this fictional world of Downton Abbey, you have a man who looks out for others, who does look out for his staff and make sure that they're okay. That the old guy who's worked on the land for 30 years does have a cottage to retire to.
We've worked this land in partnership with the Crawleys for more than a century. And will you let me come home?
I'll see what I can do.
That's Robert's duty. That's the estate's duty to look after those who work there.
I would prefer to report that you are prepared to repay the arrears in full. I'll lend you the difference myself.
You do that for me?
I'll send a check when I'm sure of the outcome.
You won't regret it?
No. I don't think I will.
It's in his own interest to make sure that the people who live around Downton are well looked after.
If Papa believes enough in Drew to lend him the money and to hide it from us, then that tells me something.
What exactly?
That you and I are in partnership with a very decent man.
I liked his decency, particularly when Bates...
What happened?
Oh, it's only the old wound.
And you'd let me know if you felt it was all too much for you.
I would.
Bates saved Robert's life in the Boer campaign, and in doing so incurred this injury.
And I owe my life to John Bates, who acted to protect me without any care for his own safety.
So Robert feels a great sense of responsibility and respect for a man who can rise above that, and he gives him a chance.
Did he tell you he couldn't walk when he made his application?
Don't exaggerate.
Doesn't it strike you as dishonest not to mention it?
I knew he'd been wounded.
You never said.
You know I don't care to talk about all that.
Robert sees the man, and the man that he respects and has a loyalty to.
Hello, Bates. Have you missed me? Because I've certainly missed you.
Good to see you back, my lord.
You see a million bricks that may crumble, 1,000 gutters and pipes that may block and leak, and stone that will crack in the frost.
But you don't.
I see my life's work.
Robert's sole duty is to preserve the estate in the best condition possible for the next generation.
Don't you care about Downton?
I've given my life to Downton. I was born here, and I hope to die here. I claim no career beyond the nurture of this house and the estate. It is my third parent and my fourth child. Do I care about it? Yes, I do care.
You can't sort of give the estate away. It's your duty, it's your birthright, and it's your bounden duty to see it through. He has a vast business to run. It may be said that he's not the best businessman in the world. He's not very good with money, as we know.
Are you really telling me that all the money is gone?
I'm afraid so.
The lion's share of Cora's fortune.
He has a shrewd idea about how to treat people. He has a great respect for other people. But in terms of running a small economy, no, he's not your man.
Has some of my fortune been lost?
Some. All. I remember a moment between Matthew and Robert in Series 3, it must have been, when Matthew brings his inheritance to Robert and saves the day.
You don't have to leave. I'll explain it later, but I'm going to give you Reggie's money. I'll accept it. And I'll give it to you.
That's when I really began to understand Robert's position, because it's all about preserving the estate.
I was determined not to let it change me. It was absurd. If you don't change, you die.
Do you think so? I'm not sure. Sometimes I think I hate change.
Robert does seem to start most of the seasons with a sense of being stuck in the past.
We've served all the papers. It's time to get on with it.
You mean foreclose the lease and farm the land ourselves?
That's what we discussed.
It's sad, though, after such a long time in the hands of one family.
The world moves on and we must move with it.
So you keep telling me.
The storyline about the War Memorial in Series 5 is, I think, quite an interesting sort of metaphor for the shift in social structure.
They want to erect some kind of memorial to the war.
What?
Well, not to the war, but to the men, the local men who died in it. They're putting them up all over the country. I suppose they want me as chairman.
Robert assumes, not arrogantly, but it's just the way it's always been, that he will chair this committee. And then the lady of the village comes up with her colleagues and sort of marches up to the house and says,
"We'd like Mr. Carson to be chairman of our committee."
But surely his lordship...
No, Carson. They don't want me, they want you.
I wouldn't put it like that, my lord. But Mr. Carson knew more of the young men that died than you did.
Yes, I suppose you're right. Well, he knew them better.
That's it.
Well, A, that's a slight personal snub, but also it's just a reflection of the changing mood in society, albeit in this little fictional, tiny world of Downton.
I know you hate not to be wanted, but you're on so many committees.
What do you mean I hate not being wanted?
And it takes Robert a while to assimilate that.
It doesn't really bother you they want Carson, does it?
They'd be lucky to get him. Even so, it makes you think. Would a delegation have arrived from the village in my grandfather's day to ask his butler to head an appeal?
We're not living in your grandfather's day.
No, we're not.
At one point, Robert talks about feeling like he's an endangered species.
Sometimes I feel like a creature in the wilds whose natural habitat is gradually being destroyed.
Some animals adapt to new surroundings. It seems a better choice than extinction.
I think that's as much to do with the world of the country estate. The feudal system is coming to an end, and he has got to accept it.
We must run this place as it should be run.
I'm not asking you to wield a scythe, but, I mean, who has an under-butler these days? If I could stop history in its tracks, maybe I would.
I think when it comes to change, Robert is actually all for evolution, not revolution. There's no point trampling everything to do with the past for its own sake. Use the best of it, why not? I think in season 5, when there's the building of property as suggested at Pip's Corner, he actually takes the bull by the horns and is far more visionary in his thinking than perhaps even Mary and Branson were.
But, Papa, some things have to change.
True, but we mustn't destroy what we're trying to protect. Wavell would wreck this lovely place forever with his ugly, cheap houses.
But you can't block all development.
I won't. I intend to expand, but without spoiling. I'm going to make a plan and find a solid builder who can fit into the village and not ruin it. We will build. We'll even make money for the estate, but we won't destroy what people love about this place.
In the 6th and final season, there is more than in any of the other, episodes, a sense of an era coming to an end.
To be honest, I'm starting to ask myself how much longer we can go on with it all.
We'll go on with what?
The household, the servants.
He sees that reform is essential. And that's really brought home in the very first episode of season 6, when we go to see our friend at Mallerton, Sir John Darnley, who is literally having to sell everything. He's having to close the estate down.
This is John's grandmother, for God's sake.
You must think it's too large.
Too large for London.
Dear John, we're so sorry. At least I hope it's what you want.
But it isn't. Not at all.
You're having quite a clean sweep.
Well, we've kept a few portraits to make a decent show in the London house. But what's the point of storing the rest? This life is over for us.
That is a huge wake-up call. It's a very graphic illustration for Robert and the whole family that they've got to do something else. That could be them next.
I think the more adaptable we are, the more chance we have of getting through.
We'll do it. The estate's safe in Mary's hands with Henry and Tom to help her. Edith has risen from the cinders in the hearth to be kissed by her very own Prince Charming. What more can we ask?
A long and happy life together, just we two, to watch the children grow. That's all I want.
And why not?
I like to think that Robert and all the characters leave the estate in reasonable condition, so it has a fighting chance to survive. Will it change its name to Highclere Castle and be open to the public? Who knows?